Welcome to Emran's podcast, episode number 64. This is your host, Suman Silwal.
So here's what I think you should think about running. I think you should think it's fun.
Join us to celebrate 10 years of running Pinhoti 100, the Western State Qualifier. Visit pinhotitrailseries.com to learn more about the Pinhoti 100. I'd like to welcome Jason Green to Emran's podcast. Jason is a founder and cult leader of Yeti Runner, that's what I call. Jason, how are you doing today?
Oh, very good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Tell us about, before we talk more about other things, tell us about your running. How's your running going? Is any big running plan going on for you?
Yeah, so, I always have, Yeti hosts a few races, so we have a 100-miler at the end of September, and we also have our snake bite in August, hottest race in Georgia, and me personally, I'm running Bigfoot 40-miler in July, and then running Oregon Coast shortly after. And I think Sean Blanton and I, Run Bum, are going to do the Trans Rockies this year. So.
Yeah, I heard about Trans Rocky. I'm very interested to run Trans Rocky. Probably one of these years I would like to run that. Before we go further, tell us about your running journey. Were you a runner all your life, or how does that start? How does that go for you?
So I started running in 5th grade, and 6th grade, joined their school's cross-country team and ran through high school. After high school, I stopped running. I've been skateboarding for about 30 years. So during that time, I did a lot of whitewater boating and skateboarding, and running really took a back seat. And about 10 years ago, I just happened to be thumbing through an article and read about someone running 50 miles in the woods, and it struck a pretty major chord with me, and I vowed to run 50 miles, and I think 13 months later, I ran a 50-mile race. So from there, it just started.
So you went directly to ultra distance running, from as a young student, I guess, to run an ultra. It took a 30 years break and then run ultra distance. Is that how it works, or did you go 5K, 10K?
I didn't do any 5K, 10K, nothing. The idea of running 50 miles through the woods really spoke to me. I've never run on a road, and it really woke me up, and I started trying to contact people in my area that had run this far before, and Janice Sanderson was one of those, and my good friend David Milner. And I just would send them constant messages about how do you run that far,
Yeah. Did they think you were crazy enough to go that far without trying any distance? I recently met somebody did Pinhoti, I think, without even running a marathon or something. So, you find people like that, and we look kind of funny. It's like, how do you do that? So
yeah, they were pretty accepting. I think, I think a lot of us have pretty much the same kind of story of how we got into this. It's something that speaks to you inside, and drives you. And they were willing to tell me everything, but they made sure that life gets interest after 35 miles. So,
yeah, definitely. So. Yeah, I've done a few of those. Yeah, it gets interesting. I did jump directly from running 50K to 100 miles. So that was a story out there, how I ended up doing it. But yours looks very interesting. And what was that first race you did back in days?
Mississippi 50-miler. Okay. And I recommend that to anyone. It's in a small little town in Mississippi, and you're probably going to be crossing streams up to your waist, and it's going to be muddy. But once a year, I always try to run a race that's rich in history in ultra running, and that's been around over 25 years, and I run it, and I like that most of these races have kept the same vibe for those years, and I love that about those races. And I always tell newcomers and veterans alike, that you should make a choice to run one of these races that has been around for 25 plus years. They are extraordinary. And Mississippi 50 is a great race.
Definitely. I have not run that race. I have heard about it. One other thing I was recommending, if I ever run that race, don't ever use new shoes, because it may get lost.
Never. And there's nowhere to eat out either. So you got to bring your own food.
Yeah, definitely. Tell us about after you ran your first 50. How did that journey went forward? Was it cases where you said, this is not my thing? Or like you said earlier, it kind of connected with you. You said, you want to stay with it.
Yeah. It just was like, what can I do now? Like I so much enjoyed trying to teach my body to just be able to leave and go on 20-mile runs on the weekends and to places in North Georgia never, would see otherwise, and go into wilderness areas in Georgia and just explore and be able to explore for 8, 10, 11 hours at a time. And so the more I did this, the more, and I would race some and then, but the whole goal was just to be able to go out for a full day and enjoy it.
Definitely. You're from Atlanta area, correct?
So I was born in Virginia, but I've lived in Atlanta for about 15 years now.
So how close are the North Georgia mountains for you?
So they're about an hour 40, and so I try to drive up, every other weekend and do exploratory runs. And I live on a state park in Atlanta, Sweetwater Creek State Park. So out my back door, I have 18, 19 miles of trail.
Definitely. Yeah, that area I'm yet to explore. I need to come by and run sometime.
Oh, you will love it. Yes. And every year I try to find new routes in wilderness areas, and it's just fun. And that's what I really like about being able to run long distances, is just to explore, these areas, these public lands that are, set aside for us.
Tell us about your running journey as you moved forward. When did you decide to open up your club or Yeti running? And because there are clubs that like Guts exist in Georgia. So talk to us about that.
So, as I ran a couple of these races, as I started in ultra running, I realized that these organizations really, didn't kind of fit the type of person I was. I like tattoos, I like skateboarding, and I listen to punk rock, and I like really good damn beer, and I would run these races, and there would just be nothing afterwards, no kind of connection, and people's shirts were just all the clothing associated with the ultra running, like it didn't fit me. Growing up and still skating for so long, I needed something on the edge. So I started Yeti Trail Runners, and I named it after my favorite beer and my good friend Dave that taught me about ultra running, who looks like a Yeti when his shirt's off. And when I did it, sure enough, I found that more and more and more people were like me in ultra running, and they were the black sheep, and they didn't quite fit in, and they didn't grow up playing sports, and they didn't necessarily think that ultra running was a sport. It was something that their soul told them to do. And we built this connection, and I started putting on races for all the people I knew, and where the person that was DFL got the biggest award of the day, and just being about friends and community and giving it back to the trails. And before Yetis, there really wasn't much of that on the East Coast, and now there is, and we've changed the direction of trail running in the Southeast, and pretty proud of that. And we've kind of changed the rules for it.
Definitely. The trail running in the Southeast has changed tremendously ever since I've been running trails. I think I started about 2012. I've been running roads since 2007, 2008, but trails, and I was a late starter even in trails. I was like you, I was not really into the trails, even though I grew up in Himalayas. That's not the thing that I did. But that's interesting about Yeti, because I grew up in the place where actually the Yetis, or we call Yetis, are from up in the Himalayas in Nepal. So it's interesting to meet Yeti runner with a person who come from Yeti land. So
so here in Georgia, it's named after my big hairy friend Dave, and the beer that I had that kind of changed the course of the way I thought about beer. And that beer was from Great Divide Brewing. in Colorado.
Definitely. Tell us about also when you do this races. I've seen in the pictures and that there's actually 80 runs around on the trail. Is it a part of the race you do, or just randomly? Go ahead.
I don't know. Like, it just kind of happens sometimes. There'll be a couple of people in Yeti costumes, and I don't know what goes on. So it's volunteers at Yeti Races are amazing people, and they do a lot, and they go the extra mile, and they'll put on a Yeti costume on a hot day and be out there.
So it's not you all the time.
I cannot get in it all the time. I sometimes have been coaxed in it, but those costumes are really hot.
It's already hot in Georgia or Alabama, so
that's even in the winter you can only last about 30 minutes in that costume. So
definitely talking about building a community around what you do. Tell us about your community, how strong it is, and what do you do different from the other community does?
So the first thing that we did is I noticed that, trail runners, they use a lot of these park resources and public land resources. And unlike, mountain bikers are organized to the T, right?
Definitely.
Raise money. They, maintain and build trails constantly. That wasn't happening in trail running. And so the first thing I did was we had someone come and train about 30 people to be trail leaders and to go on and lead these crews and to help trail runners give back, maintain trail and build new trail and gain respect in Georgia with the parks and the Forest Service. And, I think we accomplished that. And, when we apply for a race permit, they understand that we give back to there, and they have no trouble in Georgia giving us a permit.
Definitely. Talking about building trails, do you only build trails around Georgia, or would you come to Alabama if we have to request you?
I would come anywhere. If there's a group willing to spend the day on the trails, I am all for it. But mostly, I think to date we probably built about 15 miles of trail in Georgia. So, but I am all for like Alabama. If anyone ever needs, come and we, build a section. Also, still have people to the house, and I'll do a trail leader day, and I give them a book on trail solution and maintenance, and that way they can study and go back to the area they live in and start giving back, because if you're going to use them, you got to work them. And that's really the end of it.
And also maintain them. I think maintaining those trails.
It's easy to build a trail. It's super hard to maintain them.
Yeah.
The trees like to fall. Rocks like to slide. I learned that very quickly when I thought I just built this trail and the trail was built. And the maintenance on this section of trail still is unbelievable.
Definitely, yeah. But we do have a really great trail system, and some of the trails are maintained by the city foundations and also the state park. They maintain them, and we go out and help once in a while. And like you said, we build some sections and parts of it, but it's still, it's continuously, the earth is moving continuously. So, so.
And, early on, a lot of hiking groups, they don't know what to think about ultra trail runners, right? And I think when you're working alongside and, everyone finds out they have more in common, these groups and departments like Parks and Recs and State Park, they understand that, you care just about as much as about these lands as they do. And a form of respect happens at that point.
Definitely. One of the things, I do have a lot of listeners who are not trail runners, and one of the things I like to mention to them that trail running and running in trail is just not only running on trail, like what you mentioned, maintaining and taking care of it, because it's not like a road. So it's
yeah. It really requires a lot of maintenance.
Let's shift the topic a little bit. Talking about your races. You put in a lot of races. Tell us about some of the races. You mentioned that a little bit earlier. Let's talk a little bit about that.
So we do a 100-miler in Virginia in September, the Yeti 100-mile endurance run, and it's run on a rails to trail, point to point. Starts in White Top and ends in Abington. It goes, it's kind of an out and back, but ends in a different starting point. And perfect first 100-miler. It's scenic. It has 120 trestle crossings, and it's just tucked into a beautiful area. And we also do the Yeti Snake Bite. It'll be the 5th year for this race. It's at the end of August in Georgia, and it tries to kill everyone on the course because it's 90 degrees with 90% humidity. But the race also produces a lot of first-time ultra runners, which I'm very proud of. If you run your first ultra in August in Georgia, nothing can hold you back ever.
Definitely.
And then we have a couple of pop-up races, just as we like to change. Last year we did a 7-11 hour run where the whole race was themed after the convenience store 7-Eleven. We only allowed you to eat things that you could find at the 7-Eleven. And we brought out a alcoholic slushy machine. So people have a lot of fun. And then we do a free event at my home called the Yeti Spaghetti every year. I think this will be the 5th year. And we just do pop-up races throughout the year. We'll, keep the numbers down to, 150 people and, just have a good time. And we always do an ultra beer mile. It's not a mile. It's more like 6 miles. And you run off trail up the biggest hills behind my house and power lines. And you cross rivers. And it's a really fun time.
Definitely. All these races are listed on your website, or how does that work?
They're listed on yetitrailrunners.com. And if anyone wants to join our private Facebook group, we just search Yeti Trail Runners on Facebook, and we offer discounts to the races. And, we also always, if things are happening in your life, say, you lost your job or all this, you can always send us an email and we'll give you a free entry. We, believe that, we need to take care of the community and we believe that, just because, you may have lost your job, we think it's good to get out and run a race and just feel normal again and feel like part of the community.
The more I talk to you, more I learn about Yeti running. I realize it's built around the community, the member, the people that run and be part of it. It sounds like. Absolutely.
People come up to me and they say, "I love your race," and I go, it's not mine. If it wasn't for these, everyone that runs our race that becomes part of the community, they are what makes the race fun. They are. Everyone involved with the Yetis, that's who makes the Yetis, not Jason Green.
Yeah, definitely. That's what it sounds like. And that's one of the things I learned talking to I Run For, Megan Hicks. She was talking about how some of this great trail run and trail races are built around the community. And I think that's what you're trying to do, and that's what you're doing. So
now we don't like to use the word community. We like to use the word cult. We got very cultish behavior. So I think there's about 33 people with the Yeti tattoo, and so.
Tell us about the Yeti tattoo. I've heard a little bit about it.
Yeah, so a long time ago, there was this band like Rocket from the Crypt, and like if you got their tattoo, you got into any show for free, right? And so when I started Yeti Trail Runners, I said, this will be a funny joke. If you get a Yeti tattoo, you get into any race for free, right? 30 people later, here we are. Like, I didn't imagine 30 people would do it, but, they call themselves the Yeti Army, and, they are all inspirational and spread the good word of trail running. So it's been quite the goal is for me to one day host a completely free race with people with tattoos.
Definitely. There is a what do you call a future for those of you who have a tattoo and like to run ultra. So
we will welcome you in with open arms.
Talk about the race. You went from absolutely not running a trail to ultra running and hosting events like that. What does it take you to do that, and why did you decide to be a runner, create a race and events, and tell us about that a little bit?
So like I was saying earlier, I was running these races, but I felt like there was something missing, like a spark of community building and just a lot more emphasis on fun. And, a lot of the languages of the races when I started were like, if you don't make it here by 8 hours, we're going to pull you. It's this very, and I understand, in some races you need that when you're in remote areas, right? But these races were held in state parks. And I said, let's take it off. Like, if you look at my site at the snake bite, there's no cutoff time. There's absolutely no cutoff time. We want you to have a great experience, and that's why I started doing races. I wanted to change the experience for the participant, and I want them to be happy, and I want people to achieve the goals that they have. And trust me, I've sat at the finish line for 16 hours waiting on a 50-miler. And guess what? Last year, she won a 100-mile race. So those kinds of things, just send people onto greater things. So we kind of changed the language a little bit. At our 100-miler, unfortunately, we have to have a cutoff due to our permit restrictions with the Forest Service.
So definitely look for the races. If you don't need a cutoff time or you need longer races to run some of those races, definitely.
Snake bite. We are in it for you, and that's what I stand at the finish line, and that's what I want you to finish this thing. There's a lot of races out there that are tough as hell, and they tell you you're not gonna finish. I want you to. That's all I want you to do. And if 200 people enter my race for the 100, whatever it is, I order 200 buckles in hopes that every single person will get there, and I will hand them a buckle. And I'm the biggest cheerleader of anyone, and I think anybody who runs my races knows that I'm on course, rooting and cheering you on, and I want you to be at the finish line.
Definitely. Tell us about some of the things you do. What is your difficult thing for you to do whatever you do day in and day out as a cult leader, a race director, a runner?
So day in, day out, I have two girls, 12 and 10, and we try to strike balance. It's very hard as a family, and when your passion is ultra running, and you leave on a Saturday and you have to go out for a 6-7 hour run. So we try. This is the difficulty is balancing family time with pursuing our passions. As the girls also have different passions of violin, swimming, volleyball. So we try to write out a schedule where everyone pursues what their passion is, and things get difficult and things overlap sometimes. And over the years, sometimes can't start a race because I need to go to a violin recital and support my 10-year-old daughter. And I think that's fine. And sometimes I show up at races a little undertrained because we have a big family month. And I just, this is important. And I think the difficulty, and I see a lot of families at the races and people who have families, and I know what they go through. It's very difficult.
Definitely. I have girls too, and I try to do balance like you. I don't direct any races, but I do a lot of other things for running and running community, full-time job. Try to be part of the family during the weekdays, and weekends I'm gone. A lot of weekends I'm not here. The beginning of the year it was really busy, so try to spend more time during the summer, hopefully. So, but I got my training. That's the problem here is for you is not only you got to train for your races, now you got to, try to create the race, put on the races and stuff. So it.
And I work a full-time job also, so through the week, it's a balancing act. But we've learned to kind of look at the calendar and situate and see what's really important. And sometimes the wife and kids want to come with me and support me. And, I think now it's just wherever the destination is I'm running, early on my kids, all referred to me as Frankenstein. It's because, they'd be in an aid station in the middle of the woods and their dad would come out of the tree line walking like Frankenstein and not making any sense.
That's how.
So if the destination is as long as there's a pool at the hotel, they're in to go with me.
Definitely, that's what I do too. Just drag them to a place and tell them just stay in a hotel or come by once in a while or come at the finish line.
Yeah,
if you can. So
yeah, that's it. They get a kick out of it, and over this ultra running thing, my children have gained a big respect of the outdoors and public lands, and they pitch in and help on the trails, and they like to help out the races, and they've grown to really love being outdoors, but because of ultra running. So there's a lot of positives there too.
Definitely. Tell us about what motivates you to do whatever you do. You have mentioned several times about your community, your call. What is the motivation beyond that for you?
I don't know. It's really ultra running is like skateboarding. I have no choice but to do it. It's like my soul tells me to do this, and I must do it. I am not motivated by finishing a race or anything. It just kind of call inside my soul, and I must do it. And it makes me feel really happy, and that I'm fulfilling what I need to do.
Definitely. Tell us about how many races have you done since your early first Mississippi?
Maybe 80, 85.
80, 85. Do you keep a track of? They're all ultra distance races, marathons, and how do you do that?
Yeah, I don't keep track. But I would assume 80, 85. I don't really. I pick races sometimes because of the RD location, the age of the race, So I don't really keep track much anymore. I couldn't tell you my 50K, 50-mile PRs at all.
Wow, yeah. I keep a track of everything, especially marathons and ultra distance, because I'm trying to get to 100th.
Oh yeah. I don't know where I'm at. So, sometimes I can kind of see where I'm at when I'm getting a pair of socks in the morning and I'm getting on low. See all the junk that I get at the end of this race. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. Or if you signed up through Ultra Sign Up, they're all there. So not to worry about that.
I think at one point in my life, races started only giving out these finisher pint glasses.
Uh-huh.
And at one point in our house, that's the only glassware we had. So,
yeah, I have a collection of those too.
By the amount of finisher pint glasses I had in the cabinet.
Definitely. What is the furthest have you traveled for the race?
Orcas Island. Traveled to Orcas Island for a race to run a 50K.
Where is that?
Right off the coast of it's Washington State.
Gotcha. What is the most beautiful race have you done?
I would say I think Miwok 100K was a very spectacular race for me, and the fact that I live in this East Coast very forested area, and suddenly I was running through this beautiful single track through redwoods, through the headlands overlooking the Golden Gate Bridge, along Murr Beach, Pirates Cove, and then coming into the stunning view of Stinson Beach and Mount Tam. It was a beautiful race, and I enjoyed it, and it was spectacular. And
where's this race at?
It's right outside of San Francisco in Stinson Beach. But it's a very spectacular race because I get to see a lot of things that, I don't get to see here, like redwoods, running through huge redwoods and, seeing that mountains to sea kind of come together is incredible. You know?
Definitely. I just did a Big Sur marathon, a road marathon, so kind of that area was beautiful too. I saw a lot of trails, but I didn't get to run any trails. But
it's beautiful. Yeah, and I think it's just, you know, I think when Sean and I go and do Trans Rockies, the photos, you know, just so different than what I run day to day. You know, so
leading to Trans Rocky, I had a question for you. How's your training going for that? That's like a 6 days, correct?
Yeah. You know, I just keep the same. I keep a pretty good base. You know, some old timers, you know, taught me early on. You know, like so I take a little rest break from ultra running every year, but also just build a good solid base back, and I don't do speed work or any of that. I build this great solid base, and so I keep a pretty good base throughout the year. And sometimes I gotta fake my way through a 50 miler, but you know, I get there. So
so do you have to train nowadays, or like I said, you keep the base and then just kind of run the races? Is that how you do it?
Like, if you keep a good base, you pretty much can run any 50K, 50 miler. And I say that like any, but there's some, you know, when we start talking elevation in these 50K and 50 miles and, you know, big elevation, you obviously need to alter your training and get in the hills and start doing some extended climbing, you know. But a good base will take you anywhere. And I'm not a coach, but and neither were these people who dispensed advice to me. But it served me well, and you know, run injury free for a few years, and you know.
What is a good base for you?
So, you know, I usually try to hold you know, 35, 40 miles a week, you know.
Got you.
And then I'll spend some, you know, always spend like, you know, do some really 8-hour, 9-hour runs in there, you know, every couple of weeks.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a base. It just sounds like a training to me.
Well, when you live on trails, you know, it's you know, you pop out there and you can knock it out pretty fast. I mean, I don't do speed work, or you know, I don't train specifically for races. Like I said, I love to run, and like I haven't turned on my watch in a couple years, so you know, got to run by feel these days, and sometimes I will run with the person an entire race just to have fun with them.
Yeah, definitely. When it comes to race, a lot of time I'm just gone. So till somebody catch me, and then they leave me again. So either I leave them or they leave me. That's how it works for me in races. But training, I'm usually back to pack, having fun. You know, that's the difference for me, racing versus training. So
yeah. I don't race anymore. Like I said, I go to these races, and the goal is to enjoy myself and be able to go to the bar that night and be able to, you know, walk the next week. Okay, so that's really my goal. I enjoy it so much, you know, and just don't put any pressure or time goals. Like I said, I don't even turn my watch on anymore.
Definitely. Talk about nutrition. Other than beer drinking, what are your nutrition plan like? Do you do anything like that, or you?
You know, in a race, on the distance, like if 50K, you know, I just fuel pretty all day with gels. And depending on a 50-mile race, like I don't, you know, I work in craft beer like week to week, month, year to year, so. For a distributor, so you know, we have dinners and stuff, so my diet is horrible, you know, like month to year, you know, so I pretty much just treat it the same in races, you know. I've been I'll, you know, if I'm in a 50-mile race and you have hot dogs, I'm eating on. You know what I mean? So,
definitely.
And there's been times when I've died a couple of times in a race and have made it to the finish line solely on Coca-Cola. You know, so
yeah, Coca-Cola is good. I think, especially getting some caffeine, and I think I started putting it back to my training, or not training, and racing diets, racing hydration.
Yeah.
Decided not to drink beer during the race, though.
I remember one, you know, maybe 6 years ago or so. You know, the only thing I could kind of hold down, you know, calorie-wise was Coke, so I decided to fill my bottles with this Coke. And I get it like a mile down the trail, and all of a sudden they start, like defeating the valve of the water bottle and shooting Coke out of it. And I just still remember, 2 a.m, laughing so much about, I was just running behind these people shooting Coke out of the bottle.
Yeah. Is there a race that you have not run in the past, or you like to run, or go back to run some races that you have run?
Oh, yeah. There's a race, Capitol Peak, and it's kind of like a fat-ass event in Washington, and a 55K, 50 mile, and it's the best people, very chill. The course it's okay. It's just, it just embodies to me what ultra running is about, this event. And, it's been going on a long time, and the people are amazing. And so if you're ever out there, I invite you to run. The people that put on this event are awesome. And like I said, that's one race I always try to do if I can make time for, is Capitol Peak.
Definitely, I need to check it out.
It's low key, low frills, but it's good friends and good fun, and you can't ask for much more than that.
Definitely. I really need to venture outside Alabama and Georgia's borderline to go run the ultra distance. I kind of.
I do love some Cheehaw 50K. I think that is a scenic as hell race in Alabama. That time of year.
Definitely. Yeah. Are you set to run Pinhoti this year, or?
I am not. My wife ixnayed me for a couple years of running 100 just because, the bump in mileage and, being gone.
Definitely.
So she was told me to take 2 years off from going along. So I'm still in my band stage from 100. So, that's it. Only 50 milers and 50Ks.
Yeah, definitely. My family, every time I finish 100 mile, they think that I should not run any more hundreds and stay with only 50K or marathon. They don't like to see me suffer through, and they have to carry me around. And
yeah, it's very hard. It's very hard for people. I had to use my trekking poles to be able to take a poop in the morning. And my wife was like, what would ever think, cause you to think that this is okay? I can't believe I'm married to someone who has to use trekking poles to take a poop.
Definitely. After I ran my first 100, they actually bought me a cane. So they still bring it. Every time I run 100, they bring me those. That's part of my, what do you call it? my 100 mile running gear this day. So
it works. And believe you, we might get down the road, and I think there's some video she shot of me to pull back out when the ban is lifted.
Definitely. Jason, we talked a lot about ultra running. It seems like we can talk forever. Before we finish our interview, I just wanted you to put word out there for how to join your cult or community or ultra 80 running, AT running. Go ahead and put that word out for that one.
Okay. You can find us at YetiTrailRunners.com, and you can also search Facebook at Yeti Trail Runners and join the group and like our page, and you'll find the link there. And that's how you can find us. We don't charge a membership. We just hope that you like what we do and want to help us continue to do what we do.
And you're basically based off Georgia, Atlanta area.
Yep. We actually. Lately, I think we have about 36 states represented as of late. So we kind of spread around the country now.
That's great. Before we conclude this interview, Jason, I just wanted you to give word of advice to people out there. Take their running beyond their running, what you have done, building a community, building a trail, giving back. Give a word of advice.
So here's what I think you should think about running. I think you should think it's fun. And I say something to myself before races just to let me know that running is fun, as I say, tie your shoes, put on some punk rock, and fucking run it. I think it lightens the load, and this is something that you're supposed to have fun with, and remember that getting belt buckles and getting medals, and it doesn't really matter. It's, do this for you and for fun, and make some good friends and lifelong friends.
Definitely. Sounds like great word of advice, Jason. Thanks for your time. Hope to run into you or run your race or meet you, officially meet you sometime.
Love to have. Well, you got to come up and melt with us in August.
Definitely. We need to run that. I'm training for all kind of races for the fall. So I need to come and check your race out.
Please, perfect.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Hey, thank you.
If you have a need to cover your events, from marketing to taking photos, please contact mruns.com by emailing at marathonruns@gmail.com. Thanks for listening to another episode of MRuns Podcast. Please subscribe to our podcast channel, Voice of Runners, at iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, and more. And also follow our social media channel, Marathon Runs, on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter,